Welcome to Great Question. I'm your host, Alex Fleming, spellcaster, podcaster, game designer. Going to be talking about shaders today. Do you know what that is? I didn't know until today. And then I spent all day in a shader hole. We're going to talk about it. So yesterday, I was working on Ultimate Dungeon Cleaner, a game that I'm developing with art designer Mike Fallick. And Mike sent me all this art. I'm implementing it. I've got custom particle effects, so like these little custom shapes that are going to get spewed out when you win or when you pick up different power-ups from the Lost and Found to let you know, oh my god, Grem's awesome right now. Grem is you, the main character, the player who has to clean up after the fights that happen after this party of adventurers kills orcs and kills people that all the many denizens of the dungeon that you, Grem, work at, so you keep it clean. And so I've been getting a lot of feedback, or not a lot, but I there's a video that's coming out from Nether UX, and I'm getting some feedback for user experience, usability. It's very good feedback. I'm using it to make Ultimate Dungeon Cleaner so much better, but some of the feedback I've gotten, and I've gotten this from other folks as well, is it's hard to tell what you're trying to clean up, because it's not animated, and it's the same art style as the floor, so how do you know what's just the floor and what do you interact with? So Mike sent me this array of very cool filters, and I've been trying to implement them, and Mike was like, play with the different blend settings, that will make it look cool. Okay, I can't find these blend settings. I spent all day yesterday trying to find these blend settings, and I was stumped. So by the end of the day, though, I realized, okay, I think what I'm looking for are shaders. What is a shader, right? I've been talking about that for a little bit. A shader is... it's something that I'm using very specific language here. Okay, in order to talk about shaders, I need to talk about 3D graphics and how 3D graphics are rendered by a computer. And I couldn't help but think about this in terms of creation, because this is my show, Great Question, and we talk about spirituality and the universe here and magic. And when I went on Birthright Israel as a young Jew, they took us to Tzvat to learn about Kabbalah. Tzvat is the mystic city in Israel, and everything's blue there because it's supposed to ward off the evil eye. Okay, so there was this burned out dude from Michigan, but he had moved to Tzvat to be a mystic. He looked a little acid fried, and he explained Kabbalah to me as understanding the mechanisms for how God created the world, as the pursuit of trying to figure out, okay, so we understand the world is created, which I don't even know. I should clarify. I do know. I don't believe the world was created in 7 days, although I do notice that the Big Bang is sort of a creative. I mean, it seems very like there's a will that just bangs the world bigly into the world. I'm sorry for using those words. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. So how does God create stuff? How do you as a magician create stuff, right? If you're trying to harness the power of the Godhead. It turns out, as this person in Tzvat explained to me, it is by naming things, right? By creating the name for the thing, you will it into being. It becomes, it exists. And this is how God does this in Genesis, right? So he names stuff, and then it exists. And it's interesting, creating stuff in a 3D environment, what you're doing is simulating the world, but only using code, which is a form of language, right? It's words that allow us to interact with math with zeros and ones. Okay, I'm getting all over the place, but what am I getting at? Shaders. So when you are creating stuff in 3D, you have like a body that it lives on. Like what is the how does it exist in the world? What is the structure of it, right? And that is a mesh, if I understand Unity correctly, and the tutorials I've been taking in 3D terms. That's a mesh. It's like it's a big shape, and it's kind of, it doesn't have a color, or it doesn't. It's basically transparent, but it determines where stuff goes. It's the place, and then there is a texture that is how things look. Usually, that's the like actual image file that gets superimposed on the body, right? If you name the place, then you have to name how the thing looks to describe it. That's the texture. It's like, what are the colors that are there? What are the shapes? Or not the shapes. That's in the mesh, but the details of how does the thing look. And then there's the material, which is like the extra properties of it. Is it shiny? Does it bounce? Is it transparent? There's these materials. And in Unity, what I learned yesterday is that in order to blend stuff, the way you do that is by creating different materials, and those have the different settings for how your eye is supposed to interact with things, with how different graphics are rendered in the world. So backing up a little bit, I use this software called Unity. It's very popular. It's how most phone games are developed these days. It's how a lot of indie games are developed. It's how Hearthstone is developed. It's this middleware. So it's this piece of software that exists in between what the world that game designers used to inhabit, where they had to code everything from the ground up for all of their games. They had to have custom game engines that are the magical spells that make the game work, if you think of programming as sort of spell work, which I tend to do, as it is using language. You say the program into the computer and magic comes out, right? Okay, so we've got magic programs, and oh gosh, I don't remember where I was. So I've got Unity, right? It's this middleware. It was made for 3D stuff. That's where I'm going with this. Okay, I'm getting the train of thought back. It was made originally for 3D games, but then people realized, 2D is just one less D. Just let's ignore the third dimension, and you're good. You don't have to do anything special. You can have this lower barrier to entry where, if you're doing 2D stuff, yeah, you can, start using Unity. And that's how I got into Unity. But there is this third dimensional information in the ecosphere, because the pipeline, it was created with 3D stuff in mind. 3D is always an option. And I like to use some of those effects. Like when you win the game, there's like fun lighting effects, these particle effects that use the 3D engine in it. Okay, so I learned about shaders, that this is where the blend stuff happens. Basically, that's what I learned. And there's different types of shaders, but then different materials. But the way that you blend different 2D objects in Unity, I hope this is making sense, is you can save different settings as different materials. You can have like different filters in Photoshops, but each one is a different material. It's a different way of looking at that object. So finally I figured this out. That took me all of yesterday. Then I spend all of today understanding shaders a little bit, enough to use them, because I definitely realized I cannot program a shader on my own. I mean, I could copy someone's code, but I don't really understand the ins and outs of it yet. And I saw some, and it all uses the math. It's because everything on a computer is represented in numbers, so you can do math on those numbers, and that's a way to affect it. But what I got, which I like, is, so I updated Unity. And the new version of it, Unity 2019, I mean, I don't have the newest, but I have what's called an LTS version. If you don't make software of any kind, if you've never heard of this, it's long-term support, and I recommend it. It's usually a good version of things to get. Okay, so I got this new version, and it's got this thing called Shader Graph, and it basically turns shaders into like guitar effects pedals, if that makes any sense. Like, there's all these nodes, it's node based, and what you do is you create these different spots and you connect them and you plug in all these wires between different effects. So I was able to take the sprite that I had, this cool filter that Mike sent me, and then I was able to sample the camera and then blend the two of those together, because normally Unity just has them as different things, and my camera doesn't have a blend thing. So I created this shader that blends those. Boom, now I have access to blend settings. I feel like a genius wizard. It's wonderful. But so now I have Shader Graph, and I tried using some of the default settings, but clearly I think the answer is creating a custom shader. I mean, taking some sort of general idea and kind of playing with it a little bit, because there's so much you can do. It's like if you could create your own Photoshop effects, basically. I think that's the simplest way to explain it. So it's cool, but also a huge hole I went down, and I don't know if I will ever be the same. So I thought I was going to put out Ultimate Dungeon Cleaner version 13 last week, actually. 13 of the beta. I'm going to see how many versions come out before we go to 1.0, the real release. This is all beta. So I updated Unity, and I had to fix a lot of stuff because things didn't quite translate. And so now I'm like 2 weeks behind, but I think it's going to be worth it because this new art is going to look so good, and everything's going to run a lot faster. A lot of bugs are getting fixed. Very excited. So with that being said, I'm going to grab my cards. Now I've got a Mythic deck. This is the deck I use for my personal stuff right now, just because it was the most recent gift to me. And I want to think about blending. I want to think about shaders, because I just couldn't help thinking about how this shader is sort of a point of view. It's a way of all the descriptions, all the official descriptions were so vague. It's a set of math stuff that affects how you perceive something. All this crap. So I'm going to do a reading now with my cards to see what should I do now with my knowledge of shaders. How should I apply shaders to my work? All right, I've got the cards in my hands, in both hands. I'm shuffling. There's a small section that's very prominent, but they're kind of fading. There's one card that really just stuck out. Oh my God, I got this card earlier. I did a daily reading today. I tried to just do a quick shuffle to just go with my gut, and what I have here is the Ten of Cups again. The Ten of Cups. Oh, no. Oh, I take it all back. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so sorry. And non-binary folks as well. The Ten of Pentacles is what I got earlier today, but now I have the Ten of Cups. The Ten of Cups in my hands. This is a different story. This is a different 10, but also many 10s. I mean, there's a small significance here. It's a small step in the journey. It's not a major arcana. It's not a court card even. It's a 10. But still, let's go to the book. I'm going to take a look at this. Now, in the Mythic Tarot, all these cards are related to Greek mythology. So this is the story. The cups are the story of Psyche and Eros. Nine of Cups, Knight of Cups. No, in between that, I say. Ten of Cups. Okay. The card of the Ten of Cups portrays the raising of Psyche to divine status so that she may enter the world of the gods with her husband. The couple stand once again in Eros' beautiful palace, hands linked. Yeah, there's two There's a masculine and a feminine figure here. There's 10 cups in a little pyramid in front of them. They're holding hands. They look happy. It looks like they're getting married all over again. On a divinatory level, the 10 of Cups augurs ongoing contentment and permanence in the realm of the heart. Well, this is not what I expected with shaders, let me tell you that. Permanence and ongoing commitment, the ecstasy of the reunion of the lovers of the 9 has not dissipated, as did the celebration of the 3. Is this just, I'm just going to enjoy shaders, but it doesn't matter? None of this mattered? I spent 2 days on this and it didn't matter? Sometimes this is so frustrating. Plato once wrote that when we look into the face of the beloved, we see there the reflection of the God to whose choir we once belonged. It is through love, when it has passed through many tests and been built upon honesty and humility, connects us with our own souls and with a feeling of permanence, meaning, and rightness in life. This is the promise inherent in the Ace of Cups, which culminates in the 10. Not every relationship can achieve it, and no relationship can achieve it all the time, yet we humans seem to go on trying. So I think, okay, I could read this as I need to talk to my wife. I need to get her opinion on shaders and what looks good. I could also read this as this is a true union. I just learned how to make shaders, how to create different shaders. This is a connection with me and the realm of shade, of shading. And there's going to be a lot of fruitful years ahead of us. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you know all about shaders, because I certainly don't. Please stay tuned for more information about Ultimate Dungeon Cleaner, my journey as a game developer creating Ultimate Dungeon Cleaner. And next week there will be another interview show with another tarot reading, so please stay tuned for that. Please subscribe on iTunes if you haven't, on Stitcher, or on YouTube. Those are the main avenues I'm going for right now. Thank you so much for listening, and you can find more episodes of Great Question on sodabags.com. Thank you.
For more episodes of Great Question or more information about my upcoming game, Ultimate Dungeon Cleaner, go to www.sodabags.com.